Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of Man Behind the Cat Reviews. Basically, this would just be legit reviews without the cat persona and just me being me. With these, I'll be doing newer movies that I've recently seen in theaters, on DVD, or even on Netflix. I've been wanting to start doing these for a while now, and I decided that the new Halloween film would be perfect to kickstart these videos off with. I will try to make these as spoiler free as I can, and I may also try to do spoiler reviews afterwards as well. We'll see how things go. So I guess before I get into the main review, I should quickly talk about my thoughts on the rest of the series for a second. Obviously, I love the first film. I grew up with it, and it was a yearly tradition to play it during Halloween in my household. Halloween 2 I also love, and I've always saw it as one of the best horror sequels out there. Sure, yeah, sure, it degraded into a typical gory slasher film, but it was a well-made and fun typical slasher film, and I always found the climax with Dr. Loomis and Michael Myers to be very iconic, at least for me. And I always thought it was the perfect way to end the Michael Myers story, even though we all know that is far from what happened. Halloween 3, I just did a fantastic crap episode for, and what I said there is exactly what I think of the film. Trying to make it into an anthology was a great idea, and the movie itself is a very underrated gem. It was a fun and creative story which got utterly ignored because it was not about Michael Myers. Very unfortunate, but at least it had been rediscovered, sort of, and has gained a cult following over the years. Halloween 4, I thought it was okay. I thought it was an average film and a decent way to continue the Michael Myers saga. I liked the character of Jamie Lloyd, and I was interested to see where they took her character. Halloween 5 and 6 I pretty much hated, though keep in mind I've only seen the original theater cut of Halloween 6 and not the unedited director's cut, which is supposedly better. With Halloween 5, I was at first intrigued by the ending and the start of the whole Thorn story arc thing, even though that in the end it all turned into pure garbage, kind of a letdown. Halloween H2O, I also thought it was just okay. It was decent enough, had some good things and also some not so good things. Kind of dull here and there, with Jamie Lee Curtis's character being the only really memorable character in the film. I did really love the ending, and like Halloween 2, I thought it was another really great way to end the series. But once again, as we all know it, they also screwed that up all the hell as well. This brings us to Halloween Resurrection, which I think is the worst movie in the original series. And really, that's all I want to say about that so-called movie. And then we have Rob Zombie's remake, which is, once again, I thought it was just okay. Some good things going on, but I dislike how Michael was now this big, super strong, hulking Jason Voorhees type killer. Michael Myers has always pretty much been the stealthy ninja of the slasher movie villains. He kept in the shadows and slightly crept around until he jumped out of the darkness and put a knife through somebody's throat. In the remake, he just ran through walls at people and rampaged all over the place, which is not my Michael Myers. The sequel to the remake is the reason I said Resurrection was the worst film of this original series, because the sequel remake is, in my opinion, the worst Halloween movie of all time. It was all kinds of horrible crap. Not fantastic crap, no, horrible crap pulled up from the bowels of Satan's colon. That kind of crap. Now that the series recap is done, I guess I can get into talking about the new film now. And I'm just going to say right off the bat that I liked it. I liked it a lot. As you probably already heard from other people by now, this movie kind of takes the series back to its roots. Michael Myers is back to being the stealthy killer mime stalking in the shadows, and they bring back a lot of the tension, mood, and atmosphere that the original had. I said kind of brought it back to its roots because while the first film had a body count of just 5, I believe, this one not only keeps the much larger body count of the rest of the series, but it also is as violent and gruesome as the remake was. Michael Myers is as vicious and brutal as ever here. I like that there was no rhyme or reason for a lot of his kills. Some people he would just walk by and ignore completely, and others he would see off in the distance or through a window in a house on the side of the street, and he would just decide to heat seek right to them and utterly destroy them. Jamie Lee Curtis is the best she has ever been as Laurie Strode. In H2O, she was a bit scarred by her past, but had gotten over it and rebuilt her life and was living happily with her family. But here, she has dived head deep into Sarah Connor from Terminator 2 mode. She has become a paranoid survivalist, has spent her life learning to fight and use weapons, preparing for when Michael Myers returns to her. And she knows with every fiber of her being that they will come, and even her house is prepared. This, of course, has isolated her from her family and everyone else, with only her granddaughter being the only one really sympathetic towards her. She has been written off as a paranoid nutcase by the world because her and Dr. Loomis are the only two people to truly know and understand the raw evil that lives inside of Michael Myers. John Carpenter also is not only back as executive producer, but also composer as well, with an updated version of his iconic Halloween theme, and it's just as haunting and beautiful as ever. You can tell that a lot of passion and love went into this one, and that they really wanted to rekindle what made the first movie so fantastic. Heck, the slogan for this should have been "Make Halloween Great Again," because that's exactly what it did. I do know that there was a bit of an upset with the fan base because of the fact that they retcons the whole series, except for the first one, but for the most part I'm fine with that because the series has not been the best it could have been. Though, with that said, I'm a little sad that they did not add the second film back as canon because, as I said before, I do love the first sequel, and I feel that it's very valid because it finishes up the events of that first night. With the way that they have it here, it was a bit awkward for me because basically, after Michael Myers mysteriously vanishes after Loomis shoots him off the balcony at the end of the first movie, they somehow manage to find him and arrest him, which seems kind of anticlimactic to me. I love the final scene in part two with Loomis and Myers, and I personally believe that is how the Loomis story arc should have ended. I also think if they would have added in the events of part two, that it would have made the early parts of this film a bit creepier because now, when you briefly see the back of Myers' head or the edge of the side of his face, he would have these horrible burn scars. Because to me, that would drive the fact home that this guy is so friggin' driven by evil that he just refuses to die. I also know that they stated that they wanted to remove the supernatural elements from the movie and make him just a man. But really, that does not come across here at all because he is still pretty invincible and can just easily walk off a bullet wound or getting badly cut in a matter of seconds. So yeah, the movie isn't perfect. There are a few very small things here and there, as with the scene where they show Myers walking through a neighborhood during Halloween night with his mask on, weaving between all the other people in masks, which pretty much establishes that this is the perfect night for Michael to blend in and not be noticed. But the big problem for me is that here, not only is Myers famous, but this is the town where his crimes happened. Not only would his mask be famous, but I imagine that a few people would notice and call out some prick that they see wearing that mask in their town on Halloween night, which of course would cause Michael to kill them and out himself. But of course that never happens here. Also, I think a lot of the other characters here was a bit too cold and caring to Laurie's plight. I mean, this is a woman that got traumatized by having her friends murdered and being chased by the same madman. You would assume that would leave some scars, no matter how much time has passed. But these people are like, oh, just walk it off. The fact that you aren't over this makes you insane. Get away from me. It's not stated out like that, but it's pretty much how they act, and it seems a bit too unrealistic to me. Though these are pretty minor issues, and all in all, I feel that this is a very solid sequel and reboot to the series. Now, this being my first non-cat review, I guess I should have some kind of rating system. I figured I would just go very simple with it. Movies I hate get a pass. Movies I think are average or in the middle get a maybe. And movies I really like will get a recommendation. And this one obviously gets a pretty high recommendation. I think fans of the original film will love this. And I think horror fans in general will really enjoy it as well. It's dark and brutal and not watered down and brings back the creepiness of the series. So yeah, If you have not seen this yet, I recommend that you do so before Halloween, because for once, we have a Halloween film that will have you walking out of the theater feeling that you have been treated instead of tricked. And for horror fans, there should be no greater Halloween treat than that.